All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for the Wednesday AM Mindful Journaling Circle. This is a space. No problem, Fee, I see you. This is a space for us to be able to talk about um, our writing and whatever else it is that we are doing. This particular group is relevant to those who are women travelers of any kind. You can travel around the world, you can travel where you live, it really doesn't matter. Today we're talking about solo traveling. But as always, I like to be able to start off with just a few moments of a centering meditation. So what I generally do with meditation so that people can just sort of focus on what it is that they are doing is I cut off the video, but you should still be able to hear me. It's up to you if you want to cut your video off. But we just start with sitting for just a few minutes for a centering meditation to be able to bring us into the circle, to be able to leave behind any thoughts, any events that aren't serving us in the moment right now. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. Or you can just sort of lower your gaze if that feels more comfortable for you. You can sit where you are. You can sort of sit with your back straight, but not necessarily so straight that you feel restricted or you're in pain or anything like that. You just want to sit comfortably and just take a moment to find your breath. Right now, we're just breathing naturally. And in this moment, we want to just sort of feel the weight of gravity where we're sitting. If you can start from the top of your head and you can just sort of feel the weight of your shoulders drop down. Let your shoulders drop naturally. Place your hands in your lap wherever they feel comfortable. If you can perhaps feel the energy drop in your back, all the way down to your bottom. And if you can just feel the weight of your body settle down into the seat where you are now. Just consciously feel what that feels like. Bring that energy all the way down your legs. All the way down your legs, down to your feet. Just let them drop wherever they are. Then we'll take in a couple of cleansing breaths on your own. Deep cleansing breaths all the way down into the center of your belly. And then you can start to open your eyes. And when you're ready, you can cut your video back on. So hopefully that was a centering moment for everybody. So I'm glad to see everybody. Today's topic, we're talking about solo travel. Now, usually the way I do this is I try to come up with some sort of a question or a story to help us to get us thinking about what it is that we would like to be able to write about. And since today is about solo travel, the question that I asked myself for today was, what do we learn from being alone? What do we learn from being alone? Um, and when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, I've got plenty of, big solo travel stories that I can talk about. I can talk about the time that I, jumped off the side of a mountain in Vietnam to go paragliding.
Oh.
I could talk about the time that I, got a leg infection in Ghana and almost had to have my foot cut off.
Mm.
Like I got all sorts of stories that I can share. But the thing that kept coming up, I always sort of pay attention, what in my brain or what is spirit trying to tell me, or what is the story that's trying to come up. And the story that came up actually wasn't about me at all. It was about my mom. And I always share that my mom has passed on. Um, she died of breast cancer when she was 49. It's probably about 20 years ago now, almost 20 years ago.
So with my mom.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to share a story that I remember about her and asking this question, what do we learn from being alone? So I was probably about, I don't know, 17 or 18 years old. I have a younger sister, so she was probably about 15, 16 at the time. And my parents were getting divorced. We had a home. The home was being foreclosed on. Um, and we had to move. And all at the same time, my mom was dealing with her breast cancer. And so we had, my mom had spent a lot of time, a lot of years um, trying to buy that house. We probably only lived in it maybe 3 or 4 years. And so, of course, when we lost the house, it was a very trying time for her. And so we had to leave it. We wound up leaving that house to go not too far from where we were living, but nonetheless, it was a more dangerous neighborhood into a really small apartment. And she didn't have a lot of money. My mom never really made a lot of money. She was a lab tech at the time. Um, and so money was always really tight for her and for us in general. So we moved into the smaller apartment. Um, and we moved in and I remember us having to be able to set up the place. You had to move furniture in it and all sorts of other stuff. And she needed to put up curtains. Nobody knew how to put up curtains. So she went out and bought curtains, and she figured out that she had to be able to have the materials in order to put the curtains up. So she had the curtains, figured out we had to go to the Home Depot. We went to the Home Depot. We're asking people, trying to figure out this project of how to put the curtains up. There's the rod and all the little small pieces to be able to put the curtains up into the wall. So she figured out she had to go buy a drill. We had to go and ask people what kind of drill. We don't know what the pieces are. We don't know any of this stuff. And so, she bought, I guess it was like a beginner type of a drill that somebody told her to get. And we had all the curtain stuff. We brought it back to our little apartment. Um, and we have like printed out instructions that we found on the internet, trying to figure out how do you put this, how do you put this on the wall. And I remember my sister and I just trying to hold up the curtains, the curtain rods, so that it'll be in the right place. You didn't want it to be too high or too low. And she had like the brackets, and she was trying to drill the hole into the wall. And the first time she did it, the drill was like she drilled in the wrong place, and so she had to figure out how to get the nail out and all sorts of other stuff. And eventually she did it. She figured it out. And I just remember the look of pride on my mom's face when she realized that she had put the curtain up and it was all done. And I remember she put up her arm, and she said, "Girl power." And she was so happy and excited and proud of herself for being able to finally figure out how to do that. And in that moment, I kind of realized, when I was 17-ish years old, my mom never really had an opportunity to be able to do those things on her own. She just sort of gave her life over to her husband, my father, um, who's still alive. And, she never really had a time to be able to figure out who she was or have experiences that would tell her, how brave she was in life. And so this experience of being divorced and, losing her home and having cancer all at the same time, like this was sort of like her first opportunity to be able to go out and to be able to go out and do what it is that she wanted to do on her own. Of course, it didn't look like, it did the opportunity didn't show up in the way that she wanted it to, but nonetheless, I learned what it was like to be brave. And so when I think about, where do I get my nerve from, um, my audacity to be able to go out and just do it anyway, that's probably, that may be a source of inspiration for me. Because even now, when I think about, like, God, how do you even do all of that? How can you be sick, lose everything with 2 kids in tow, with no help, and be able to figure out how to make it? You gotta, that takes a lot takes a lot of bravery. So one of the things that I wanted to do today, if we could start with our writing, is to ask, um, thinking about the theme, what do we learn from being alone? From whom or what do you attribute your nerve, your audacity, or your bravery? From whom or what do you attribute your nerve, audacity, or your bravery? And I'll put it in the chat so that we can see it. I'm putting 5 minutes on the clock.
Sorry.
No, one more minute. Okay. If anyone wants to share, you can either read what you have, or if you just want to, in general, share. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, I would love to hear what. Yes.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see everybody. Really quickly, I thought I'd just jump in really quickly because I'll piggyback a bit on your story. I got my, I guess, attribute my audacity or bravery. I'm going to call it audacity from my mother, too, who also lived with cancer for many, many years. She was diagnosed in her early 40s. She lived and was treated until she passed at the age of 70. But throughout that time, my mother never wanted to settle for the life that she had. Never. She worked, for the state. We had a pretty normal upbringing. I used to travel. It was never something that I appreciated at the time when I was young. So my mother decided that she wanted more. And long story short, she didn't have the money to travel the world as she wanted. That's what she wanted. She wanted to travel the world. And she didn't have that kind of money or expertise or even know how to begin to do that. So she formed a travel club of her friends, of which she had thousands. My mother was she was a Leo, she was very social. She knew a million people, everybody knew her, and if she was involved in something, she was going to be the president. That's just how she was. So she created a travel club of her friends, and she met a travel agent. Long story short, she met a travel agent who I remember to this day. She's long since passed. And she started off like booking the trips because back then, you had to have paper tickets, you had to, blah, 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 was a whole different scenario. And eventually so that's how my mother got to travel for free because the more people she brought on the trip, her trip was free. And so she learned the travel business. And this is how good God is. When the lady died, she left my mother the business. And at the end of during these many years, she taught my mother how to do these things. And she became able to write the tickets herself and so forth and so on. And it never turned into, this huge lucrative thing, but it afforded her the ability to live this dream that she had of traveling the world. Of course, I didn't have any appreciation for it. Wasn't interested in going anywhere with my mother and her friends. My father and I, we'd be so happy when she was gone. Like, let us know when you're coming in. We'll pick you up from the airport, and we better be on time. And so it was a vacation for us when she was gone because my mother was like a tornado. So I taught it audacity because a lot of people, like my grandmother, was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And her favorite place ended up being Morocco, of all places. And she had, and I still have a lot of mementos from her travel. So they thought she was audacious. They didn't see her as being brave. They thought she was living outside of outside of what she should be doing. They thought that she was doing too much. And so now after my mother is gone, I think I've inherited that audacious gene and finally some appreciation for traveling and so forth. So I'm so incredibly grateful to her for that. And I'm so very, and I still apologize to her for this day, because after a while she stopped inviting me, right? Like, you want to go? And I was always, no, girl, I don't want to go. We'll see you when you get back. And so I apologize to her still for not, because I could have added another layer dimension to our relationship, but things are as they are. And so now I'm just grateful that I have inherited that, I think. And I'm not going to call it bravery, I'm going to call it audaciousness too, because often I don't feel very brave. But I'm so grateful for her for that. So I just wanted to jump on with that because it was my mother too, Alana, that I learned a lot about. And through that, I learned a lot about me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Fee, did you want to say something? Because I know you have to leave in a minute or two.
Sure. Thank you, Kim. That was beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here. And so my audaciousness and my bravery stems, like I think most of you, I don't know, some of you, at least Kim and Helana, my mother. So what I've written, and I realized it's not a lot of writing in 5 minutes, but here we go. I attribute my nerve and my bravery from experiencing my mother's resiliency and ability to create a multitude of ways from what would appear to be no way. I recall the day she presented a business idea to me when I was around 11 or 12 years old. Now, when we get up in this doctor's office, Felicia, I want you to act nervous. What she meant was, I want you to act a damn fool. Act like those badass kids you see living up in the project. Mama, I want you to act like you can't keep still. Just keep pacing around, keep moving, no matter what this doctor tells you to do. We arrived at Dr. Bob's office, and that's as far as I got. So my mother, I'm from the Midwest, and my mother got this harebrained idea from her cousin, who was a pimp, that they could make some side money selling prescription pills. They were called Ritalin. They were prescribed for kids who had ADD, ADHD. Mm-hmm. So, but they didn't have any kids who had ADHD, but they had me. So my mom told me, you're going to go up in this doctor's office and you're going to basically pretend like you have ADHD. But she didn't use the word, she used nervous and all that. So that was my first acting job. And I got paid very well. I got, for the first time in my life, allowance. I was like, we coming on up. And we ran that racket for probably a couple years until Dr. Bob, my doctor, was arrested because he wasn't a doctor, he was a veterinarian. Yeah. So
wow. Where you from?
Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah.
I love
feel
that.
Thank you. My mother was very, 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 very courageous, charismatic, enigmatic, bold, and hood, and classy, and eloquent. Yes, she was amazing. And she too transitioned of cancer. So I feel like we all have that in common as well, or some of us have that in common as well. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Fee. I love that story.
Yeah.
I love it.
We get bravery from strange places.
Love it.
I will adjust my schedule so that I can fully participate and be here for an hour. Is it an hour?
Yeah, just an hour.
Okay, so next Wednesday, I will be here for an hour. I look forward to getting to know you ladies.
Thank you.
Nice meeting
Love
you.
to have you. Thank you, Fee.
That was great.
Does Fee still have her online exercise?
I think so. She does. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd like to share and thank you,
Yeah.
Alana and Fee, and she's gone, and Kim for the beautiful stories. It's interesting that this session turned to mothers because I'm working on a piece now that involves my mother. So I wrote, I attribute my nerve, audacity, and bravery to my mother. Hands down. She lived her whole life without fully realizing her worth. However, I saw it and emulated it. She saw herself in a completely different way, in a way that was defined by church activities. I, on the other hand, defined myself by the world and all of the things the world had to offer. Although that presented a problem, which has me exploring my mother wounds today, I'm grateful for the lessons that she represented. I wouldn't change me for the world. It was difficult to see such a strong woman succumb to emphysema. And just to add a footnote to that, no matter what issues were or challenges were presented to her, she worked her way through it, and there were many. And that's what I remember most about her, that she was a victor in the midst of rising from being a victim. Because there was a time in her life when she definitely was a victim. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Would anyone else like to share, or do we want to go on to question number 2?
I want to share. Interestingly enough, yeah, so I said, that's an easy one. My mama. We moved around so much and started over so much that I thought and believed that starting over was normal. I was more afraid of staying what I called stuck. So when it comes to being brave, I attribute that to starting over. Now, to be fair, I'm also pretty curious, meaning my curiosity was allowed. And I think that comes from my aunts and my older cousin. And I'm assuming anyone who raised me had something to do with that. So my cousin, who's the same age as my father's sisters, always talks about how I ask so many questions. And my mom talks about how when I was younger, I talked so much, they called me radio. And so when I listen to like their stories, I think I also, I think about how I was the first grandchild. And so, and I was my mother's third child, but the first child she had while she was married. And so I had all of these people fawning over me that I think created this like spoiledness. But really just this fascination, right? Like I think I got treated really well as a result. And so when I talk to people about their upbringing, I realized that mine was like totally different. Like my 2 aunts were preschool teachers. And so I was just very, very, very fortunate to have like this, I call it Team Tish, of people who like supported me and allowed me to like explore and talk and play and do all these things. And I think that really created, in addition to us moving around a lot, whenever I came back to visit my father's family, it was always the same house, my grandmother's house. But yeah, just think about when people call me brave, they usually are referring to something related to me starting over. And so I attribute that, I guess I attribute that to Team Tish. Like that was my norm and I was allowed to be curious. And so, yeah, that's who I am today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, should we move on to the next question?
Yes.
Okay, so number 2. We can talk about your favorite solo travel experience. What did you learn about yourself? Talk about your favorite solo travel experience. What did you learn about yourself? One more minute. All right, so talk about your favorite solo travel experience. What did you learn about yourself? Is anybody excited to share?
I am.
Yes.
As soon as you said when you said favorite,
Mhm.
I found myself having like struggling between what I call like the first. I was like, wait, but that wasn't the first. This was the first. But that wasn't the first. This was the first. And the thing that I learned about all of them. So when I the first thought that came to mind was Belize. But that wasn't actually my first solo travel. That was just like my Like I sold everything and packed, you know, and left. But that wasn't the first. Then I thought about Toronto, which was actually when I was working at Kaplan, and all the people canceled on me, and I decided to drive. I'm from Chicago, and I decided to drive by myself to Caravana. But I was like, well, that wasn't actually the first. The first was when I went to Nigeria, and the first leg, when I had a layover in Spain. And I left everything, like my very first time out the country, and I left everything in the airport and went exploring in Madrid. Never been there before in my life. But every single one of those, it was like the same lesson. It was like, girl, you can do anything. Like every I think that was yeah. All of those were my favorite because it was just a reminder that I could literally do anything I wanted to do. Like anything was possible. So yeah, all of
Absolutely.
those are my favorites. Every trip is my favorite trip. What do you mean?
I know,
Hope?
right? They're all a favorite.
Yeah, real quick, thanks, Tish. Just really quickly, guys. I really don't have a favorite. They were all really very different, and I haven't done a ton of solo travel. But what I did at the end of all this thing, a couple of things came through. I solo traveled because I chose to. There were in my life, there are people who maybe traveled because alone because they didn't have company. Um, the trips that I did on my own, I chose. And people like, where are you going? What are you doing? That what don't you can I? No, no, you can't go. Nobody wants you to go. I want to go on my own. That I chose to. So that was key. That's front. I wanted to be on my own. I enjoy my own company, but the main thing that came through for every of these, each of these things, is that that spirit of freedom is really attractive to strangers. And I found that strangers, especially when they find that you are on your own and you are thriving in this environment on your own, they are really generous in terms of wanting to reach out, wanting to know more about you, wanting to include you, wanting to make sure that you're safe, wanting to know a little bit more about you. So that was thrilling to me. So some of these some of these like lasted a little bit after these trips or what have you, but that was true in every single one of these things. That this audaciousness that we spoke about earlier and this spirit of freedom and being out on your own is very attractive to people, and it has served me really well. So thanks for that.
You always find people who are willing to help you.
That's why it's so funny when people say, "Is it safe?" I'm like, people love me. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. Stephanie,
When I-
did you want to say something?
Yes, I did. Well, I think this last trip actually put the cherry on the top for me because I can't swim. I'm afraid of heights. I had all these issues with traveling. And I learned from every trip that everything that I think I'm afraid of, it's not that I'm afraid of doing the task. I think I harbor in my head all the fears that everybody instill. Oh, you're going to do that. Oh, but you have to be afraid of that. And I've learned through all of these things that I couldn't swim, but I did scuba diving. Who does that? I'm afraid of heights, but I walked over the Chaplin Bridge in Canada, did it in Japan. And what I've gathered through all of that I'm going to stop listening or telling people my travels so they don't tell me experiences that they might have had or didn't have, but try to tell me, oh, you should be afraid to do that. Oh, don't do that. This is that. So I think that was my learning experience from now I'm realizing through all my travels.
Absolutely. I know I said I jumped off the side of a mountain to go paragliding in Vietnam to confront my fears of heights. I'm still afraid of heights.
Yeah,
Still very much so afraid of heights. But I know that I can, it's things that you can do to be able to move through it anyway. You can't let the fear stop you. You still move forward. And it wound up really being one of the best experiences of my life.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now I try anything. I mean, I'm afraid, but I still try it. And then after it's done, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I really actually did that. You
Mhm.
know? So, yeah.
Let's see. It's 47. Let me put up question number 3, so we won't miss it. So what truths have you learned about people and or the world as a solo traveler? What truths have you learned about people and or the world as a solo traveler? One more minute. Okay. What truths have you learned about people and or the world as a solo traveler?
I learned that people are kind, they're intriguing. Everyone suffers, but everyone loves joy. And people want to meet me and want me to meet them.
Mm. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I agree with Carolyn that I find that people in this world are more good than they are not, than we believe. The world is filled with all of this strife and hatred and but I have found that people are kind. They may be quiet and you don't know it, but if you take time and they take time with you, that there's a spirit of kindness and goodness in them.
Mhm.
And people share the same concerns that I do. I also have hopes and dreams as I do. They believe in love of family and care for young and old. Um, and I experienced that all yesterday. Yesterday was a busy day for me, meeting people on the street. In my travels, no matter where I am, it could be even going to work. People always ask me for directions, like like I know, like they know that I know where I'm going, and it has astonished me for years. And so people think that I'm from the place where I am going, or I am, even if I got there the same day that they did, they're asking me for directions. And that happened yesterday. I met a whole family yesterday, and they speak to me, of course, in their language because they think that, why, of course, I'm Brazilian and I speak Portuguese. And or I'm French and I speak French. A white Portuguese man started talking to me in French as we crossed the street, and he was asking me for directions. So it's been interesting. I think there are also, as Carolyn said, adventurous too. People want to see see things and question things and have a spirit of adventure. Yeah.
Where are you from, Kathy?
I'm kind of from a little all over the place. My father was in the military, so I grew up in different places on the East Coast and the West Coast. Both my parents are from Texas. Um, I have family in Texas, Oklahoma, California, North Carolina. So I actually for a long time called California home because that's my favorite place. So, and
Where did
maybe that's why what they sense that I can move around and I feel comfortable. And that's what I put in my first uh, question, the answer to the first question. I think my parents instilled in me confidence wherever I was because we moved around so much.
Mhm.
And I don't need, I learned about myself that I don't need another person to keep me company or to feel safe or and it's funny because when I was in high school, I had these so-called friends who would take trips like to Disneyland, but they wouldn't invite me. And I got upset because they didn't invite me to go. I don't think they thought I had the money to go, or I don't know what it was, but I was never invited. but I would invite them places. So as I got older, they were still, doing that. And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go by myself. And so, and I was like, and I never thought I can go by myself. So, yeah, I'm okay with going by myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone else? We got a couple of minutes left.
Oh, I was gonna say the similar to Kathy, that people are inherently kind.
Mhm.
Also, people of all races, genders, nationalities will give you wrong directions. I don't know why that is. I think it's because of that kindness. Like, but I don't know what, it don't matter what country, people will tell you the wrong way, which is that has been very interesting to me. It don't matter, man, woman, they will tell you, send you off. So
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
Last thoughts?
Don't take other people's opinion. Go and do it yourself. And don't be afraid to do it alone, because you'll be surprised what you can get accomplished by yourself. Because with other people, you always got to say, "Oh, you want to go at 7 o'clock? Are you going to be ready by now?" When you go by yourself, you just get up and you get yourself together and you get out and you go. I love it. I
Mhm.
love it.
Me too. I still have family members who are like, you should be out there by yourself. I'm like, I've been out here at least 6 years by myself. It's like I'm not. This is what it is. It's a lifestyle at this point.
That's it. Go on in that country can definitely go on here. So,
Mhm.
Alana,
well,
do they ever ask you, or do you get from them what they think is gonna happen to you?
Everything, because most of the people in my family don't go places, or they're wait. They're just wait to spend a whole lifetime just waiting for something else to happen or for somebody else to do it, or and then they look at me and they're just like, wow, look at her do her thing, and they're just like, where did she even get that from? My grandparents are like, where is her husband? Like,
oh yeah, you.
they literally thought I was hiding him. They thought, oh, you must have a boyfriend. You just don't put him, you don't put him online. Or I'm like, why would I be lying to y'all about a husband or some boyfriend somewhere? They just don't get it. So I don't know.
That's funny. Like you need a protector, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's always out of love, but it's just
Right.
weird. It's just I'm just
yeah,
weird to everybody. They just don't get how or why or what's the point.
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Traveling is a hard thing for people to adapt to, especially when you leave in a country where they say is the best country in the world. They think you shouldn't go out and see what else is there. My cousins only go to the islands and stuff, and they think they've traveled. I said, try going to Africa once in a while. And I'm not going there. Do they have paved streets? What goes on? And I'm like, you got to stop and look at TV. Do they eat people? TV shows you what they want you to believe, so you don't go. But if you try going sometime, and with my pictures, they said, that's not real. Yes, it is real. I mean, they can't believe it because they don't think that life exists outside of America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's hard. And when I told one of my girlfriends that they say only like 10% of Americans travel, My cousin says, no, that's not true, but it is true. Every country I've gone to, when I tell them I'm from America, they be like, really? You know, they get shocked and amazed. But my girl said, no, no, no. All my friends travel, but they're not Americans. You know, they came from an island and they travel once they get into America. But Americans don't travel. That's just a norm. I don't know why. I wish they did. I might have more traveling partners, but I don't.
Ironically, that's one of the things that I wrote down a few things, and one of them was that um, in other places, people seem to um, this idea of knowing. Yeah, people know what they witnessed and seen for themselves. But in America, it feels like when someone says they know, it's probably based on what they heard or saw on TV or in the movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
So America
so
is the greatest marketing machine on earth. I don't think anyone else has this propaganda push. Like
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, most of what we know is based on what Hollywood or
Mm-hmm.
has given us.
you know,
Yeah.
I've always found it amazing how we talk about how Cuba is this communistic country, and the people are so devastated living there. They give their money, they have to give all this money to their government. And when I went there and I went all over Cuba, I found it amazing. Those people are the happiest people living in those buildings and just willingly, because I told one guy in Airbnb, I said, oh, I'll pay you and I won't, sign anything. He says, oh, no, no, no. They are willing to take care of their country. The one, I mean, I love Cuba. That's one country that let Africans come there and go to medical school free. America don't do that. America, yeah, I mean, you know,
As
I
you
love.
as you said that, it made me wonder if much of what we get is the sentiments of the rich. Because really,
Hmm.
who cares other than people who have a whole lot and don't want to share,
Yeah,
who have more than enough
yeah,
that you have to share. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm talking to people about me moving to Mexico, and
hey,
and this is
mom,
the well, wait, because I have to tell you this, and I love it. So my friends say to me, "Why would you move there? They all moving here." I said, "Have you ever heard of people who have a little bit of money moving um from Mexico, or it's just like all Americans are moving out. They're not Americans that's poor. Poor people can't go nowhere. I mean, because they're stuck. So it's the poorest of the country people that's trying to escape. It's not the people who, can actually live someplace else. Because I mean, I don't know because the people that's coming over from Mexico, to me, they scare me because they part of the cartels and everything else. Some of them are poor, but look at all the crime that's come with them coming. That's what the cartel is doing. I think. I don't know. I'm just scared. I don't want to be nowhere near a cartel.
It's not
Going way out.
cartel in most places.
I'm going.
You'll be fine.
the US got a cartel. They call it the police.
That's
Oh,
right.
see, I don't know because all the places in Mexico I've been, I've never seen it like that. So.
And cartels are actually kind of like governing bodies
Yes.
that actually there's so many villages and stuff in Mexico, and in South America, but the cartels are like your town commissioners, and they're actually trying to help their people a lot of times. They might be, a little upset with the other village down the street who got better service than they did from the government, but cartels, Yeah, people don't realize it's like how it's how the mafia actually started, you know, what we know as the mafia, trying to help their own block.
But see, this is why I say it's easy for you to travel so you can learn these things. I didn't learn that. Go for what
Yeah,
America tells me.
yeah.
Different places I've been in Mexico, it's not where I'm looking to move, but you know, you hear these things and you think this is what it is because this is what they teach you. This is what they instill in you. So when you go, you're looking out and you're scared to drive there, you're scared to go over, you know, fly into certain places and stuff, you know, because this is what they tell you. That's why I say you got to travel, you got to get out there and do it for yourself.
And I'm real nosy. I tell people that all the time, that I'm nosy. And sometimes it's not good, but I'm nosy. I can't help
You
myself.
have to be.
I want it's just like I want to find out. You know, they say don't go over to the town next door, and I'm like, God, I wonder what's over there. I want to see what's over there. And I also think that I don't know that there's two ways you can think about it. I don't think that just because I go there that somebody wants to harm me. Like who am I? Who you know who is this person? You know, why would they want to hurt, just pinpoint me to harm? I don't know. Maybe it would be a group, you know, maybe I don't know. So that's why I'm like, you know, I've lived a long time. I haven't been in any mass incidents. I know that it happen, but every day the sun comes up, even if you can't see it, it's a good day, and I'm hopeful.
Every day
But I
brings
like that
something new.
point that you realize you're not the center of everybody's world.
Right. I'm not. I'm not.
Like the
I'm
folks are
not the
not really
center.
not thinking about you that hard.
Yeah.
You're not they're just not that into you, right?
Yeah. If anything, they're gonna ask me for some directions. That is about it. That's it. That's it.
Oh boy, this was funny.
Yeah, they're not gonna do
Okay,
nothing.
hold on. Let me end the video, and we can still be here, but just let me end the video for the purpose of being able to put this on the internet. So if people are interested in joining the Wednesday AM journaling mindful journaling circle, you're free to do so. You can just go to the link in the description and put in your name and your email address, and you will get all of the email updates. We meet on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. New York time. And yeah, so that's it. So I will see you all next week. Thank you.
Yeah.